Her voice broke as her nails dug into my leg. She was pressing so hard, it felt like she wanted to sink them right in. I took a step back, and she fell face first onto the floor. My brother didn't say a word. He just sat there on the sofa the entire time, still holding that copper object in his hand, staring blankly at his coffee. Oh, he shifted a few times, but in the end, he stayed silent. Because he had no right to speak. He accepted those 4 apartments, while I got kicked out of the house. She saw all of it, and she couldn't care less whether I lived or died. Now I had money, and he had lost millions in loans. The properties were depreciating too. Every single month, he was paying $38,000 in mortgage. What could he possibly say? Sorry? Or lend me some money? He couldn't say anything, because any words would sound ridiculous next to $70 million. My mother stood up from the sofa, her legs trembling. She had to support herself just to stay upright. She walked toward me, shaking, tears streaming down her face endlessly. Benson, Mom made a mistake. She reached out to touch my face. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. Her fingers brushed against my cheek, cold as ice. Her hands had always been freezing. I knew that since I was a kid. Mom, I've waited 28 years. Everyone kept asking me why. The hand on my face froze. I looked straight into her eyes and said, I was waiting for you to apologize. Her lips trembled even more, but my heart finally found peace. It wasn't about the money or the houses. It was because ever since I was little, everything went to my brother. Just eat a little less. When I was young, it was the chicken thigh. Later, it was tuition. Let your brother pay his first. You can wait a bit longer. Then it was the down payment on an apartment. You're still young. There's no rush. Let your brother buy a house first. Everything I got was old stuff. Leftovers nobody else wanted. My mother's hand slipped from my face, and her knees buckled slightly. I caught her. You don't need to do this. I helped her sit back down on the sofa. I took the winning ticket from my brother's hand and put it away in the folder. I looked at him. I'm no longer waiting for an apology. When I left the folder in the study and came back, the sight of the 3 of them in the living room is something I'll never forget in my life. My mother was curled up on the sofa with her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking, but there was no sound of crying. My sister-in-law was still sitting on the floor, a strand of hair falling over her face, her gaze completely empty. Her lipstick had smeared all the way down to her chin. My brother was still sitting in the exact same spot, motionless like a statue, clenching and unclenching his fists over and over. Keep up your little act, Aliro. Close the door. The second I stepped out and shut the door, I heard a muffled, hoarse sob from inside. I couldn't tell who it was. Maybe my mother, maybe my sister-in-law, maybe my brother, or maybe all 3 of them. In the elevator, the numbers dropped from 28 to 27, then 26. Floor by floor, just like these past 28 years, year after year, perfectly orderly, without a single glitch. I leaned against the metal wall of the elevator and closed my eyes for a moment. I didn't cry. Honestly, no tears came out. The last 28 years had dried me up completely. There wasn't a single drop left. But eventually, the elevator always reaches the bottom. When the doors opened, all I had to do was take one step, and I'd be in another world. I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't even need to look to know it was my sister-in-law. She rushed forward to stand right in front of me, her eyes red and her face streaked with tears. In those bloodshot eyes, there was pleading, but also a strange sense of determination. I knew exactly what she was trying to do. Don Joe, are you really not going to help your brother? She was still the exact same sister-in-law as always, arrogant, thinking she was clever, yet incredibly foolish. I also heard the footsteps of my mother and my brother coming up. Seeing my sister-in-law like that, they both froze in place at the same time. With all the money you have, what does it cost you to help us? I laughed, but my sister-in-law, acting like a total street brawler, dropped to the floor. She slapped her thighs with her hands and started wailing loudly. She drew a huge crowd of neighbors from the complex. There's no justice. The younger brother has money and doesn't care if his family lives or dies. My sister-in-law just kept making things up, claiming they sold everything to raise me. She called me an ungrateful son, repeating the same thing over and over again. Another round of her ungrateful child routine. More and more neighbors gathered around. Maybe my sister-in-law was acting a little too well, or maybe people just love watching a good show. Everyone was pointing at me and whispering. Some joined in to insult me, while others said they were ashamed to have me as a neighbor, threatening to kick me out of the complex. My sister-in-law was getting more and more worked up. My brother held onto my mother, and the 2 of them just stood there trembling. I knew them well. Even after knowing the truth, they wouldn't put on the exact same act as last time, but they also didn't stop my sister-in-law. That was obvious. They wouldn't do what she was doing, but they could definitely watch without stepping in. Deep down, maybe they were hoping I'd give in and hand over the money. Family, such a common, warm word, but in my 28 years of life, that word always felt foreign to me. She was my mother, he was my brother, she was my sister-in-law, all my own flesh and blood. Yet it was precisely these relatives who slowly cooled my enthusiasm, leaving me completely numb. It even made me want to laugh. I noticed a neighbor had called security. They were glaring at me with pure hatred. My sister-in-law saw it too and doubled down on her performance, tears and snot pouring down her face at the same time. But I didn't lose my cool. The facts were right there. Acting couldn't change them. The only thing I could change was my attitude toward them. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Just as I was about to hit call, Sushio arrived, absolutely furious. The second Sushio showed up, my sister-in-law instantly stopped crying, screaming, and cursing. And suddenly, everyone went dead silent.